Have you ever stopped to think about why two of the biggest sportswear brands on the planet, Adidas and Puma, both come from the exact same tiny German town? Well, let me tell you, it is no coincidence. It's an incredible story of family, betrayal, and a feud so bitter, it didn't just tear a family apart, it changed the world of sports forever.
Because, get this, Adidas and Puma were founded by two brothers, Adolf and Rudolf Dassler. They started out as partners. These guys were pioneers who were totally changing the game in athletic shoes. But a deep, personal fight would rip their partnership, their family, and their entire town right down the middle, and kick off a 60-year war between two global giants that were literally born from the same family.
So, to really understand how it all went so wrong, we've got to go back to the beginning. We're talking the 1920s, where the Dassler brothers combined their very different talents to create what seemed like the perfect partnership.
And this is a classic startup story. No money, very few resources after World War I, so the brothers just set up shop in their mom's laundry room. They had to get creative, even scavenging for materials on old battlefields, using leather from army helmets and silk from parachutes just to build their very first shoes. Now, they were the perfect team for one simple reason. They were complete opposites. Adolf, who everyone called Adi, was the quiet, meticulous inventor, totally obsessed with designing the perfect shoe. And his older brother Rudolf, or Rudy, he was the loud, outgoing salesman who could sell anything to anyone. The system was simple, and it worked. Adi made the gear, Rudy made the deals.
But it was Adi who had this incredibly bold and honestly super risky idea for the 1936 Berlin Olympics. He packed a suitcase full of his best spiked running shoes, drove all the way to the Olympic Village, and decided to track down one man, the American track star Jesse Owens.
And boy, did that gamble pay off. Big time. Owens loved the shoes, and he went on to win 4 gold medals, a historic performance that totally humiliated Hitler's theories of Aryan supremacy and, at the same time, put the Dassler brothers' shoes on the world map. All of a sudden, orders were just flooding in from all over the globe.
But with success came a whole new level of pressure. And as World War II swept across Europe, the little cracks in the brothers' relationship began to completely shatter. Mistrust and paranoia started to replace what was once their perfect partnership. The road to their breakup was just paved with bitterness. Like a lot of German businessmen at the time, both brothers joined the Nazi Party. But during the war, their resentments really started to fester. Rudolf was drafted to go fight, while Adi got to stay behind and run the factory. That distance and the paranoia that came with it would soon push them to a breaking point.
It all came to a head in one single fateful moment. During an Allied bombing raid, Adi and his wife went to join Rudy and his family in their bomb shelter. Just as they got there, Adi said, "The dirty bastards are back again," talking about the planes overhead. But Rudy was absolutely convinced the insult was aimed at him and his family, and that one misunderstanding, it cemented their hatred for good.
After the war, there was just no going back. When Rudolf was imprisoned by the Allies, he became totally convinced that his own brother, Adi, had turned him in. And that was the final straw. In 1948, they split the entire business. Adi just combined his nickname and his last name to create Adidas. Rudy did the same, first calling his company Ruda before changing it to the much more athletic-sounding Puma.
But the brothers didn't just split a company, they split their entire town. They literally built their new factories on opposite sides of the river, creating this massive divide that would define their hometown for generations.
The town even got a nickname that just perfectly captures how crazy this feud was: the town of bent necks. And why? Because your loyalty was determined by what was on your feet. Before you even started a conversation with someone, you'd look down to check their shoes. It was this silent daily pledge of allegiance to one brother or the other.
And this rivalry seeped into every single corner of life. I'm not exaggerating here. There were Adidas bars and Puma bars. The town's 2 soccer clubs were sponsored by the rival brands. It was basically a Cold War fought on the streets of a small town, where even dating someone from the wrong company was completely forbidden.
Okay, so this little local feud, it quickly exploded into a global war. The brothers' personal hatred for each other became the engine for a decades-long battle for market supremacy, driving insane levels of competition and innovation.
Adidas landed the first big punch. Adi, always the innovator, supplied the West German national soccer team with these revolutionary boots that had screw-in studs. So in the 1954 World Cup final on a totally rain-soaked muddy field against the supposedly unbeatable Hungarians, the German players had way better grip. Their impossible victory became known as the Miracle of Bern, and it made Adidas a household name, like overnight.
And the battles got personal. and honestly sometimes just plain weird. At the 1960 Olympics, a sprinter named Armin Hari tried to get paid by both brands. He ran the 100-meter final in Pumas, but then showed up to the medal ceremony wearing Adidas, thinking he could cash in twice. Well, in the end, he just made both brothers furious and got blacklisted by both companies.
By 1970, the rivalry was so out of control that the next generation, the brothers' sons who were now helping run the businesses, actually called a truce. They made a secret agreement that Pelé, the biggest sports star on the entire planet, was off limits. They called it the Pelé Pact, and it was supposed to stop them from getting into an insane bidding war.
Yeah, but pacts between bitter enemies are pretty much made to be broken, right? Puma secretly went to Pelé's agent and offered him $120,000, which is over $1 million in today's money, just to wear their shoes. The deal was done.
And what happened next was a moment that basically invented modern sports marketing. Right before the opening whistle of a huge World Cup match, Pelé casually asked the ref for a second so he could tie his shoes. As the greatest player in the world knelt down, every TV camera zoomed in, giving millions of people watching at home a perfect long close-up of his Pumas. The pact was shattered. Adidas was enraged, and the war was back on.
For the rest of their lives, the two brothers never spoke another word to each other. Their rivalry absolutely fueled their global success, but the personal cost was just immense. It created two massive empires, sure, but they were built on the ruins of their own family.
And this right here, this says it all. Even in death, they are divided. They're buried in the same cemetery in their hometown, but as far apart from each other as you can possibly get. The feud literally followed them to the grave.
Decades after the brothers were gone, and with the companies no longer run by the family, a symbolic peace was finally made. Employees from Adidas and Puma came together and played a friendly soccer match, finally ending the 60 years of hostility that had defined their town and their brands.
And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question. The bitterness between Adi and Rudi Dassler. There's no question it fueled decades of competition and innovation that shaped the entire sportswear industry as we know it. But was all that progress worth the price of destroying a family? It's a powerful legacy and a really complicated one.